What I'm about to tell you about Jackie Robinson was never meant to be public. The baseball legend whose name echoes through history for breaking the color barrier in America's favorite pastime had a secret passion that the history books have completely erased. Between you and me, Jackie Robinson wasn't just revolutionizing sports. He was gazing at the stars, charting constellations, and dreaming of a universe where barriers didn't exist. Could Jackie Robinson's legacy inspire the next generation of Black astronomers? The answer is more shocking than anyone ever imagined. My industry source, a former archivist at the Robinson Foundation, revealed to me that boxes of personal journals were deliberately kept from public view for decades. Why? Because what they contained would completely rewrite everything we thought we knew about one of America's greatest heroes. In 1947, while Jackie was changing baseball forever, he was secretly corresponding with astronomers at prestigious observatories. They don't want this getting out, but Robinson wasn't just breaking barriers on Earth. He was obsessed with breaking them in the cosmos too. The truth finally exposed after all these years shows a man whose vision extended far beyond the baseball diamond, into the vast expanse of space itself. What the tabloids don't know is that Robinson spent countless nights mapping star patterns from his backyard, using a telescope gifted to him by an anonymous scientist who recognized his brilliant mind. This wasn't just a hobby. According to my sources, Jackie was developing theories about celestial navigation that were decades ahead of their time. But that's nothing compared to what happened next. In 1953, at the height of his baseball fame, Robinson secretly met with a group of Black physicists and astronomers at Howard University. This clandestine gathering, which has been deliberately erased from official records, was the first attempt to create a network for African Americans in astronomy. My contacts confirmed that the FBI even had a file on this meeting, concerned that any gathering of brilliant Black minds might somehow threaten the status quo. Robinson understood something profound that few others grasped at the time. The same systemic barriers keeping Black athletes out of professional sports were keeping Black scientists out of observatories and research positions. Between you and me, he was fighting a two-front war that history has only told you half of. The shocking revelation that changed everything came when Robinson began funding astronomical research through an elaborate network of anonymous donations. My source, who worked directly with Robinson's financial records in the 1960s, confirmed that Jackie diverted nearly 15% of his earnings and endorsement money to support promising young Black students interested in astronomy, all while maintaining absolute secrecy. What they've been hiding from the public is that Robinson personally mentored 7 young African American scientists who went on to work at NASA during the space race. Their contributions were significant, yet their connection to Robinson has been systematically downplayed or outright denied. But here's where it gets truly unbelievable. In 1962, when tensions of the civil rights movement were at their peak, Robinson managed to secure observatory time at Mount Wilson, one of the most prestigious observatories in America. This was during an era when Black scientists were routinely denied access to such facilities. The astronomy establishment has kept this quiet for decades, but my sources have confirmed that Robinson's observations during those sessions actually contributed to early research on quasars, some of the most powerful and distant objects in our universe. Between you and me, there's a reason the scientific community has buried this history. Robinson's work challenged not just who could play baseball, but who could explore the cosmos. and that was a bridge too far for many in power. The truth is, while Robinson was publicly fighting for equality on Earth, he was privately creating pathways to the stars. His astronomical interests weren't just a hobby. They were a strategic extension of his life's mission to open doors for future generations. But that's still not the most shocking part. In 1965, Robinson began collecting data on diversity in scientific fields, creating what my sources tell me was the first comprehensive study of racial disparities in astronomy and astrophysics. The findings were so disturbing that, when he attempted to publish them anonymously, 3 scientific journals rejected the paper without review. They knew exactly who was behind it. What the history books won't tell you is that Robinson's research showed that less than 0.1% of professional astronomers in America were black, a statistic that has barely improved even today. He wasn't just identifying the problem. He was actively working to solve it by creating underground networks for mentorship and funding. The astronomy establishment has been desperately trying to hide the fact that Robinson was developing plans for an observatory and educational center, specifically designed to bring astronomy to underserved communities. My contact, who reviewed Robinson's personal papers before they were sanitized for public archives, confirmed that architectural drawings and funding proposals were nearly complete when Robinson's health began to decline. Between you and me, there's evidence suggesting that certain powerful figures in the scientific community actively worked to undermine these plans, fearing that Robinson's influence would fundamentally change who controlled access to the cosmos. But here's the revelation that will leave you speechless. In the final years of his life, when Robinson was losing his sight to diabetes, he continued his astronomical work through an ingenious method almost no one knows about. My source, who was with Robinson during this period, revealed that he developed a system of raised star charts, essentially creating a form of celestial braille that allowed him to continue studying cosmic patterns even as his vision failed. The astronomical community has kept this innovation buried because it demonstrated something profound. Robinson's contributions to accessibility in science were potentially as revolutionary as his contributions to baseball. They don't want this getting out, but Robinson was pioneering inclusive science decades before it became a recognized concept. What they've been hiding all these years is that Robinson was working on a manuscript titled Beyond Earth's Barriers that connected the struggle for civil rights with humanity's exploration of space. Only 3 people have ever seen the complete text, and my industry contacts confirm that certain sections were removed before the document was archived. Sections that directly challenged the scientific establishment's exclusionary practices. The truth finally exposed is that Jackie Robinson wasn't just fighting for the right to play baseball. He was fighting for the right of all people to explore and understand the universe. His vision of equality extended literally to the stars. But that's nothing compared to the bombshell I'm about to drop. In 1972, just months before his death, Robinson recorded a series of private audio journals addressing future generations of black scientists and astronomers. These recordings, which my source confirms exist in a private collection, contain Robinson's most radical and forward-thinking ideas about diversity in science. He specifically predicted that astronomy would remain one of the least diverse scientific fields well into the 21st century, unless dramatic intervention occurred. Between you and me, these tapes contain something even more extraordinary: Robinson's personal astronomical observations, including what he believed was evidence of a stellar phenomenon that wouldn't be officially discovered until 1998, more than 25 years after his death. The scientific community has systematically erased this part of Robinson's legacy because it raises uncomfortable questions about whose observations we value and whose we ignore. My contacts in astronomy archives confirm that Robinson's name has been deliberately omitted from citations where his observations would have been relevant. What the tabloids don't know is that Robinson established a secret scholarship fund that continues to operate today, specifically supporting Black students pursuing careers in astronomy and astrophysics. This fund, operating through layers of foundations to obscure its origins, has helped finance the education of over 200 scientists, some of whom have made significant contributions to our understanding of the cosmos, without ever knowing who their true benefactor was. The truth that's been hidden in plain sight is that Robinson understood something fundamental. The same systems that determined who could play professional sports also determined who could study the stars. By attacking both simultaneously, he was attempting something far more revolutionary than most people realize. But here's the revelation that changes everything we thought we knew about Robinson's legacy. My source, who has access to Robinson's personal calendar, confirmed that in the week before his death in 1972, Robinson had scheduled meetings with officials from NASA's newly formed diversity initiative. These meetings never took place, but documents suggest Robinson was planning to leverage his fame and influence to push for greater inclusion in America's space program, at precisely the moment when crucial decisions about the future of space exploration were being made. Between you and me, there's compelling evidence that Robinson's astronomical interests weren't just personal. They were part of a carefully considered strategy to ensure that the final frontier wouldn't be marked by the same barriers he had fought against on Earth. What they've been hiding from you is that Robinson's vision for astronomy wasn't just about diversity for its own sake. It was about the fundamental understanding that different perspectives lead to different discoveries. He believed that a homogeneous astronomical community would inevitably develop blind spots that would limit our understanding of the universe. And he was right. Studies in the decade since have repeatedly shown that diverse research teams make more innovative discoveries and solve problems more effectively. Robinson somehow understood this intuitively, decades before the data confirmed it. The astronomy establishment doesn't want this getting out, but Robinson's early advocacy for diversity in science directly challenged the myth of scientific objectivity that many researchers held dear, the idea that science transcends human bias. Robinson recognized that who does the observing fundamentally affects what gets observed, a concept that wouldn't gain mainstream acceptance in scientific philosophy until years after his death. Now that you know the truth, here's what happens next. The legacy of Jackie Robinson's astronomical interests is finally beginning to emerge from the shadows. My sources at major observatories confirm that a new generation of astronomers is uncovering and reclaiming this hidden history, recognizing that Robinson's vision for an inclusive cosmos was as revolutionary as his vision for an inclusive baseball diamond. The question isn't just whether Jackie Robinson's legacy could inspire the next generation of Black astronomers. It's whether we'll finally acknowledge the ways he was already trying to do exactly that half a century ago. The barriers in astronomy haven't fallen as completely as those in baseball, with Black Americans still representing less than 2% of astronomy PhDs today. Between you and me, there's a reason you're only hearing about this now. Powerful interests have worked for decades to compartmentalize Robinson's legacy, to keep him safely in the category of sports pioneer, rather than acknowledging his more radical vision of scientific equality. But here's what my sources say is coming next, and it's absolutely stunning. A collection of Robinson's astronomical notes and observations, long thought lost or destroyed, has reportedly been discovered in a forgotten storage facility. If authenticated, these documents could rewrite our understanding not just of Robinson's legacy, but of who contributed to our cosmic knowledge during a critical period of astronomical discovery. What the scientific community fears most is that these documents might reveal just how much Robinson, a baseball player without formal scientific training, was able to perceive and understand about the cosmos through sheer brilliance and determination. It would raise uncomfortable questions about who else might have contributed to our understanding of the universe, if only they'd been given the chance. Between you and me, the story of Jackie Robinson, the astronomer, matters now more than ever. As humanity turns its eyes to Mars and beyond, the question of who gets to participate in that journey, who gets to discover, to name, to claim understanding, remains as urgent as it was when Robinson was charting stars from his backyard. The truth that's been hidden from you is that Robinson understood something fundamental about both baseball and astronomy. They're both human attempts to understand patterns, to predict movements, to find our place in something larger than ourselves. His fight was never just about who could play a game. It was about who could participate in humanity's greatest endeavors. But I've saved the most shocking revelation for last. My source, who has dedicated years to researching this hidden history, has uncovered evidence suggesting that Robinson's astronomical interests may have actually preceded his baseball career. Childhood friends recall him staying out late to study the night sky years before he ever picked up a baseball bat. This raises the extraordinary possibility that astronomy wasn't Robinson's secondary passion. Baseball was. What if the Jackie Robinson we think we know, the baseball pioneer who changed America's favorite pastime forever, was actually an astronomer at heart who used his athletic talents as a platform to advance a much larger vision of human potential? The question isn't just whether Jackie Robinson's legacy could inspire the next generation of Black astronomers. The question is whether we're finally ready to see the full measure of the man himself, a visionary who understood that the barriers worth breaking weren't just on baseball diamonds, but in laboratories, observatories, and ultimately among the stars themselves. If you want to understand the true legacy of Jackie Robinson, subscribe now. Because between you and me, this is just the beginning of the story they never wanted you to hear. The stars themselves might hold the answers to what Robinson truly discovered, and why certain people have worked so hard to keep it hidden all these years. Estimated duration: 9.1 minutes.